It's just like when you're trying to get healthy, right? And you start to bit by bit, you know what you need to eat, you have to move, how you have to do all these things, but you don't really feel motivated to do that. Well, getting financially savvy is a lot like that.
You're listening to the Marketing Study Lab podcast with me, Peter Sumpton, the Lego Master of Marketing, providing you the building blocks you need to be successful with your marketing. This intro lasts about a minute, so feel free to skip forward if you've heard it all before. It's nothing new. So what's this podcast all about? We chat to some amazing people to give you practical advice that you can implement right now that will make your marketing truly awesome. The conversations we have will lead you to the actionable marketing knowledge you've been craving. Just a quick word about supporting the show. The best way to do this is to leave a 5-star Apple Podcast review. It helps me get the best guests and helps others find the podcast. All I want to do is help people get the best out of their marketing. If you've got a burning marketing question right now, let's chat it through. All the links you need to contact me are in the show notes, because let's face it, you ain't writing anything down right now. Now let's get on with introducing our guest. This episode is all about finance, which is something that can be a difficult topic to discuss from a business or a personal perspective. So, in this episode, we're chatting to Winnie Sun, founder of the Sun Group Wealth Partners. But more importantly for us, Winnie makes money talk relatable. A contributor for Forbes and having appearances on CNBC, ABC, CBS and Fox Business, Winnie is committed to helping anyone with their finance, from those with millions to invest to the smaller $100 savings. Some of the actionable tips that we will discuss are what we should be doing with our money right now, what not to do, and what we should be doing in times of change or even crisis. There are actionable tips for both personal and business here. But first, it was only fair of me to ask Winnie, are you going heads or tails?
Heads.
Heads, okay, let's see. Coin. Just to prove. Going heads. Oh, it's tails.
Aw.
Never mind. I think you're winning anyway. You don't need to win the coin toss. Far from it. You're winning anyway. Okay, let's dive into more serious stuff. And what's the story that brings you to this point in your career? And can you explain what you do now?
Sure. Well, I am a financial advisor. I've been a long-time financial advisor. And, my team will tell you I'm a financial advisor by trade, but I also play one on TV. So a lot of what I do these days is not only advise corporations, individuals, our individual clients, as well as being sort of a speaking pro, if you will, all over the media, kind of translating and identifying and explaining what the financial markets as it relates to you and your own family. So I make money relatable and understandable. So how I got to this career is purely by accident, because actually a long time ago, about 3 months before starting college, my parents, unfortunately, who were amazing savers, had to go bankrupt. They had to go bankrupt because they had invested in a business deal that went sour. And so the partners went bankrupt and therefore they went bankrupt. So they just didn't have good investment expertise. And so when I went to college, I decided that not only would I help my mom and dad keep the house, but I would become more financially aware and savvy so I could help advise them.
That's really interesting. When you were younger, what did you want to do?
Oh, when I was younger, well, I've always been a very shy person, so I really just wanted to draw and be an artist and possibly be an elementary school teacher,
Wow.
And just be around nice people.
That's brilliant, and it always seems to be the people that are or say they're shy and retiring introverted more than extroverted that end up more in the front line than anything. And I find that quite surprising, but really cool as well, because I think an introvert in itself is kind of misplaced, if you like. I class myself as an introvert as well, although I'll talk to people all day on podcasts and things. Okay, so what I'd like to do today is try and get some actionable tips from you in terms of our financial future and looking after our financial in future. What should we be doing? So first of all, I think there's two things I'd like to cover first and foremost. One, what should we be doing if we're in employment? And two, what should we be doing if we're working for ourselves? And I know they're strange times at this moment that we're talking in.
Right. I think, the most important thing when sort of becoming more financially savvy, or if you will, just comfortable with what you own and what you don't own and how you spend and whatnot, is sort of get into that financial mindset. And it sounds easier than it is, but it's sort of a long term goal for, I think, a lot of us, which is, it's just like when you're trying to get healthy, right? And you start to bit by bit, you know what you need to eat, you have to move, you have to do all these things, but you don't really feel motivated to do that. Well, getting financially savvy is a lot like that. I think it oftentimes we don't become financially literate, or we don't get good at money until we're forced to get good at money. But the good news is it's actually not that difficult to sort of get better with your finances. Probably the first thing I think is most important is just to start talking about money with your loved ones, your family, and being comfortable and having a support system where you can openly talk about money, because it's so taboo. I mean, I remember being a kid and my mom would be like, no, don't worry about this. This is adult stuff. This is not your stuff to worry about. And I'm like, okay, so don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm about to go to college and, oh, we don't have any money, and and we might not keep the house. And then all of a sudden at 17, it becomes my problem. I think with money, it's one of those things where if you sort of surround yourself with people, or you can go online and participate and listen and just get more comfortable with the whole just stigma of being able to talk about money. I think it's super empowering. And to be honest with you, it's a lot easier than, even getting fit and eating right. So
Yeah.
not bad. So that's really the thing that I try to share with everybody, and I always encourage them to hang out with me, do live streaming, or watch my videos, or make a phone, whatever it may be, whatever it takes to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a non-judgmental place. Who cares how much money you have? I mean, that's the truth. Who really cares? What I care about is that you want to make a difference of yourself in the future. So like, I don't care if you have $300 to your name right now, or if you have $300,000 to your name. At the end of the day, it just depends on how comfortable you are with yourself, and that you really want to improve your financial picture. And if you're willing to like improve your financial picture, then that's someone I want to talk to.
That's really cool. I like that. Why do you think it is finances and how much we earn is such a taboo topic?
Yeah, I think the main reason is because for generations now, um, people use your sort of your balance sheet as your status symbol. So
Mm.
we'll be like, oh my goodness, Mark Cuban is so awesome. Is really Mark Cuban so awesome? He probably is. I don't know, but all of it, if you stripped away all that money, would he still be awesome? And if the answer is yes, then that's great. But I do think, I always say, money does a really interesting thing with people. Money in many ways, in my opinion, is like alcohol, right? So if you are a nice person before the money came along, you'll be even nicer person once the money comes along. But if you're not a nice person, even with money, you'll become even meaner. So we got to get to a point where we don't feel like money defines us, but really our persona, our integrity, our kindness to the world, that needs to define us. And understand that money is certainly very, very important. And money is a tool to get us from point A to point B. But we need to be comfortable to be able to talk about money in order for people who really understand about money to help you. And I think that was a really enlightening lesson I learned very young, right? Because my parents hit complete bottom and they
Mm,
were incredible savers and we needed to go ask for help. And I had to work like 3 or 4 jobs. My sister had to work a whole bunch of jobs. We needed to do whatever we needed to do. Go pick up recyclables. We had to, like I worked in my parents' pizza store when I was like 8 or 9 years old, like manning the cash register. And then people who didn't pick up their pizza, we would take that pizza and I'd go to the donut store next door and trade for donuts. Like those are the things that you remember that build your sort of financial confidence. But once we get to a point where we realize that money doesn't really, it can't define us. If you
mm,
let it define you, it's only you. None of your friends want to see you go into debt trying to prove that you have money. None of, it's so funny because you'll go into the workplace and you'll see one colleague pull up in a Mercedes, right? Pull up with the latest jeans, pull up with everything. And you're like, hey, that's weird. I thought we did similar things and we make similar money. So how are we different, right?
mm.
We really think about it that way. They're like, well, it's just because I'm not spending and that person's spending. Or maybe they have really rich parents. Well, then more power to them. But I'd rather be able to have a very content life um, than having all this money. Because oftentimes, I'll tell you as a financial advisor, I work with clients of all sizes, like just
Mhm.
starting off, like the first investment all the way to like that, I've worked with Fortune 500 companies. So there's certainly all across the spectrum, but I will tell you, in most cases, more money, more problems. But also more money can solve a lot of problems too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So I always say, I'm a big believer that we should spend less time trying to cut coupons and more time learning how to make money. Um,
Mhm.
what do they, okay. So there's a saying in the financial industry. They said, money is like a bar of soap. The more you touch it, the smaller it gets. So true. But then I'm like, well, then I'm gonna go out and collect more soap because I'd rather have more soap than less soap. So let's get working, focus on that. I don't like when I had my first child, I didn't really want to be that parent that had to count how many diapers I was using per day, if I was using the right coupons. No, I'd rather be like doing what I do best and knowing how to pick myself up and knowing how to make more money. I think that's awesome.
I completely agree with you. I'm so glad you brought that topic up because me and a friend, literally about 3 or 4 months ago, we're looking into this and looking at ways we can highlight this to people. And the fact that a lot of people, the majority, have that negative mindset of, like, I've got this money to spend, so that is limiting to me, rather than I want this lifestyle, so how can I achieve that by getting more money?
Yep.
Uh, and I just think it's such a different mindset. And as soon as you get that, then doors start to open and you realize the areas where you can actually make money. Okay, so if I want to make this more relatable for people that are listening, and if I've got a small amount of money to invest or to save, say a couple of $100 or up to $1,000, say, what should I be doing now?
You should absolutely, there's so much that you can do. The common misconception that is that you need to have a lot of money to invest to make a difference for yourself. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. But there are a couple things to kind of take away from that. The first thing is if you have like, let's say a couple $100 or up to $1,000, what I would say even before getting to that is first off, tell me, number one, do you have student debt? Do you have student loans? Number two, do you have credit card debt? Number three, do you owe anyone any money? And number four, what's your mindset? How do you feel about money? How do you does it keep you up at night? Are you stressed or are you like gung ho? And number five, like, do you have a job that continues to pay you income? And the reason you do that is so often I'll meet with people and they'll reach out to me on social media and they're like, Winnie, what should I be buying right now? What should I be investing? And then you'll find out later that they have other sort of financial obligations. So I always say it's kind of like swimming with a broken arm. It doesn't work so well. So if you tell me, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Winnie, we're all good. I have no debt. I have no student loan. I don't want to owe anybody any money. I can definitely invest for the long term. I can put this money away and not touch it until I'm 60 plus. Then I would say one of the best places to look right now is to a Roth IRA for most people. Now, of course, there's income limitations. So if you make a ton of money, you might not qualify to go directly to a Roth IRA. But a Roth IRA is a tax sheltered investment or savings account for retirement for those of us in the US here. And then, picking the investments is so interesting. So a lot of times people will come to me and like, Winnie, I want to buy like XYZ stock, whatever it may be, whatever, ABC stock, whatever it may be. And I'll say, okay, so what are we going to do? Like, tell me why you're investing in this and why do you want to do this? And because usually when you name a stock, you say, I love such and such stock, right? And that's really like going to an architect and saying, I want the pink sofa. And the architect is going to say, you want the pink sofa, but we got a piece of land here and I don't know where the bathrooms are and the kitchen are and the garages, and I don't even know where your room is, but you picked the pink sofa. So more importantly, when it comes to managing your money is to figure out what the purpose of this money is for. So if the money is for, let's say, your first home purchase, right? So you can get out of the house. Maybe it's for because you have kids and you want to set up a college savings fund for your child for the future. That's good. We need to know a purpose, because without a purpose, and it could be a really fun purpose. It could be like, well, we want to go to Cancun next year. And that's cool too. We have to have a purpose, and then we can then backtrack and figure out how to invest, because some investments are designed better for long term and some investments are better for short term and whatnot. So without a plan in place, you are doing you're basically just taking that money and just gambling it away. So you might as well just, I don't know, just throw it out in the neighborhood and hope for the best. But really, if you're going to invest with a higher probability of success, you have to have a plan. The plan is everything. So even if I didn't do what I do today and I was managing my own money, I would certainly have a plan. And I think if I have to have a plan, I think you should have to have a plan too.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. It was just literally last night that me and my wife sat down and we were looking at our finances for the next 12 months and do that on a regular basis just to make sure that we know incoming, outgoing, etc., in case circumstances change, all spreadsheeted. And it sounds dead geeky and it sounds dead serious, but it's like anything. If you're not planning, you don't know whether you're achieving, you don't know whether you're hitting targets, etc., particularly with finances being so tight for some people. So that's what we should be doing. What do you see people usually doing that we shouldn't be?
I think you definitely should try to get to a point where, I mean, those of you who are watching, if you're in a situation, definitely get to a point where you're not living paycheck to paycheck. I think that's unfortunately a reality for many people, and you've got to break that cycle. One of the best ways to do that is to find, have a side hustle to your side hustle to your side hustle. You got to find ways to bring in income to be able to satisfy your needs, your financial needs. So many times people will start with the opposite. They start with their budget and they'll cut this out, and cut that out, and cut. That's really a hard way to live and a very sad way to live. I think that, I would rather the people that I work with and people that I'm friends with live a better life, right? I think in most of us, not all of us, but most of us live pretty reasonably, unless you're going out and you're buying brand new jeans every other week, then maybe you got issues there. But many of us are really just trying to get by. But on like right now, we're talking, Peter and I are talking, and there's this huge, pandemic happening, and a lot of people are struggling right now. But imagine if you had other ways, you had diversification. I speak at a lot of large conferences and do keynotes and travel the world, and I do a lot of brand work and whatnot, and a lot of my colleagues do as well. Well, once you couldn't travel, then you couldn't speak at conferences, you couldn't get paid to speak, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. So what happens to them? What happens is if this was my only line of work, I'd be in trouble, right? Fortunately, that's not the case. I have plenty of ways. Of course, none of us are doing well, I would say. I think we just got to face that. All of us have our own struggles and all working really hard. And, anytime there's a dramatic global correction. Everybody's going to suffer. It's just a matter of degrees, but you got to get yourself in a situation where you have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. And because this is not only good for yourself, but if you have children, children need to learn from their parents how to pick themselves up when things are bad. And so you can't just get to a point where you're completely dependent on one job. I think that might have worked back in the 60s and the 50s, back in the day, when our parents were little. But in today's reality, we have the means, thanks to Mr. Google and everything else, to do so much more. And we should, because not only that, think of it positive. Don't just think, oh my goodness, Winnie, you're talking about like, I have to do all this and I'm already doing so much. No, I'm also talking about like how great that is to be able to reach your full potential as a human being. Like there's so much talent in you. Every single one of you that's watching, there's so much magic and talent and so much unique about you that you haven't even uncovered that someone will pay you for. I felt that way about like 10 years ago in my career. I felt like I just got to be more out there that I can do because I love what I do. I love working with my clients. And there's a but. There's always a but because I just feel like I haven't reached my full potential. So I think like I would challenge each and every one of you to try and think during this time, like in times when you're stressed and you're like overwhelmed, think about what else could be your full potential. And then you will find ways. You'll end up being a money magnet for some reason. I don't know. It's been crazy. But you just have to trust me on that because I've gone through it. I'm a little bit older, so
you don't look it. Yeah, it amazes me. I mean, so the UK at the time of recording this, the UK has been on lockdown. If you like, we've been told to stay at home for I think 4 or 5 days now, and it amazes me the people that say that they're bored, they haven't got much to do, they're tearing their hair out, they want to get back to normality, and I'm sat here and I'm thinking, wow, you're bored. There's so much you could be doing. It's utter craziness, and usually those are the people that, when it comes to it, are like, oh, I've got no money, I can't do this, I can't do that. There's plenty of opportunities. Like you said, Mr. Google is your friend right now.
Absolutely. And like this is a great example of what you could do. I mean, like Peter's podcast, this is incredible. I mean, this is just like a learning ability. Like what I have 2 podcasts myself, unfortunately not as active as yours as I should be. But when I was doing interviews more regularly, like the brain trust of learning was like incredible, right? And to produce this sort of content, my team, like this morning, I mean, Fridays are our crazy day. And I got all these messages saying like, oh my gosh, we're on fire right now, like fire in a good way. But, it wasn't like a surprise. It's because we've been working so hard. I'll give you an example because this will be shared to your listeners later on. Yesterday, I just got told or asked to do Fox News 3 days a week. Today, when I got into my home office, I got a message saying CNBC wants me to do a live streaming show starting next week. And like all these things just keep popping up. I have a project I'm going to be doing with a huge like financial payment group that you've heard of, but I can't talk about it just yet. But you'll know in a couple of days or when this airs. But there's all these like really fun opportunities, and they're like, wow, we're on fire right now. Well, it's not that we're on fire right now. It's that we've been working on this for so long. And we continue to be like, we have just increased our productivity by tenfold, just like you, right? So instead of disappearing and being, oh, woe is, I'm so sad, I can't go to the market, I can't go see my friends, I can't go to the beach right now. It's like, we need to step up our game instead of live stream. Like a month ago, I was live streaming maybe once a week because I was just so busy. Now I'm live streaming daily. And that's on top of all the, national news that I'm doing. And I'm producing written content way faster, way more than I've ever done. And I think that's because we realize that number one, there's a need for our content. Number two, there's an opportunity, right? And number three, like if you're not going to hustle right now, what else are you going to do? I mean, I don't want to be surfing the internet trying to find toilet paper, and I hope you're not doing that either.
Brilliant. I absolutely love it. The only thing I am online for is a webcam, because
Yeah,
no one has got any webcams in stock. It's what has gone on with the world. It's
yeah,
craziness. Logitech are missing out on a lot of money right now,
yeah,
because they are
no,
completely out of stock. It's mad.
it's mad.
Okay, Winnie, really, really loving this. But what I like to do at the end of my chat is give you some quick fire questions. Is that
Let's do
okay
it.
with you? Are you ready for these?
I'm always ready. Let's do it.
Brilliant.
I messed up. I messed up.
Excellent. Let's go for it. What's that source of information you can't live without?
Right now is Twitter.
Twitter.
I have about 350,000 followers on Twitter, and
Wow.
my community is very active there. So yes, that's definitely somewhere I'm really big on.
Brilliant. What was the last thing you remember Googling?
Um, like literally, it was the financial stimulus bill right before I got on here.
Of course, perfect timing, isn't it?
Mhm.
This will be interesting. If you could tell your 10-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Well, interesting enough, I have an 11-year-old. But if I could tell my 10-year-old self, I would say that um, don't worry about what people think of you so much, because as a kid I was so bullied and I was so scared and so timid, and I would say like, tough up, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, red hair. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. What's the most important thing to know in finance right now?
The most important thing to know about finance is that in the long run, everything will be okay. Not to panic, but instead think about making things easy for yourself. Don't over plan it. Try to automate your savings and automate paying off things, and try to get yourself to a point where you don't have to budget anymore. You just know not to spend money, and pretend you're poor all the time, like I do, and you'll be fine.
Brilliant. I love that. Final and most important question: if people want to find out more about you and what you do, where should they go?
To learn more about me, you can actually find me at winniesun.com, or you can Google Winnie Sun. I'm all over the place. And I'd be really honored to connect with you and have you follow me, and we can have conversation. And yes, I do all my own social media. So if you reach out to me, you will be hearing directly from me.
Brilliant, Winnie. Thank you so much for joining me today. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Peter, for your time, and stay safe, my friend.
Winnie, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure. Just time to hit on 3 takeaways that I took from that amazing chat with Winnie. And the first one is that we need to all start taking money seriously and start talking about it. So many comparisons with the gym can be attributed here. You need to be consistent, take it seriously, and work on it daily. Don't expect to know everything as soon as you walk through those financial doors either. Take your time and learn, build, and grow a portfolio. Exactly like you do in a gym. No one's walking into a gym, first and foremost, one session, job done, tick, healthy forever. It's not like that. The second takeaway is make sure you have a purpose. Work out how this can make money and do the backtracking to figure out where to start. You have so much more of a chance of winning if you're passionate about what you do and what brings the money in. And finally, have a plan, but not just one plan, many. In a world where we are told to niche down, go deep, own this singular space, which is so true, but there's no reason you can't do this for multiple spaces in multiple niches. As Winnie said, which is so prevalent to the times we live in, make sure you have a plan B, C, D, and E. If plan A ain't working, you still have 4 plans to fall back on. Thank you so much for joining us today on Marketing Study Lab. It really means the world that you're listening to this out there. And hopefully I've provided you some value. If you're looking to know more about what Marketing Study Lab does and is about, go to marketingstudylab.co.uk or get in touch with me personally, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or feel free to email me at peter@marketingstudylab.co.uk. Happy marketing.